It is a story set in the American Southwest about a multi-ethnic, multi-generational family that is haunted by an original shame in the family. And an unlikely hero begins to set things right.
Do you have any rituals as you go about writing? Do you listen to music?
I do.
Dance around the house?
I listen to a lot of music.
Yeah.
I listen to everything except country. I listen to loud music. I don't necessarily listen to really heavy sort of metal bands, but if it's really funky, eclectic music, it sort of it recharges me as I'm writing.
Yeah.
So music is a ritual. I drink a lot of coffee. I'm a night owl, and so I often like to write when things quiet down and it gets quiet. And then sometimes, I haven't done this in a while, but I used to pretty regularly go and take long walks at 2 in the morning and follow the neighborhood cats around and then sit back down and start writing. But that being said, I'll write back at Chadron in the office if I have a quick 30 minutes without music. So I've been able to, I'll write. If I have a moment to write, I'll write, with or without the ritual.
Do you Google yourself?
I just recently did.
Oh, yeah?
I don't Google myself as a rule, but since the book is coming out, I kind of wanted to see what would happen when people Googled me.
Right.
And it's interesting how there is this digital landscape of your profile out there.
Yeah.
And, it is even more interesting when it's a few pages long on Google. So I don't know if I'm going to continue doing it. It's kind of weird, but yes, I just recently Googled myself.
Do you have any secrets in your book that only certain people will be able to discover?
I have a few secrets in my book that only I know. There is a story that you know, Old Man Gloom, where a little girl, Cindy, actually writes down a secret on a piece of paper, and then her pal, Chicken Noodle, sort of disposes of that secret properly without looking at it. So she and I are the only ones who know what that secret is. Plus maybe somebody who might have done something to her. And that person has to know. But he's also fictional. I think there's a chance that my wife knows some things in a deeper way, and maybe why the different symbols and motifs are there, because at different times in life, different stuff comes up. I wouldn't say that's a full-fledged secret, but I'd say she has a deeper understanding probably of that book than most people would.
Do you believe in writer's block?
I don't. I think it's nonsense.
Yeah.
It's easy to say that I think it's nonsense because I've never had it ever. I don't get that concept. I think that I guess I understand it as being, from students in the past who complain about it a lot, I think it's a culmination of trying to be perfect and not understanding that the process of writing is a process. And since I'm okay with the messy process of it, I just start writing. And when it's terrible, that's what it is. And often, what I think is terrible turns into something pretty good at some point, maybe 5 years later. I don't really throw anything away. I have a graveyard of stories and poems, and I dig it up all the time.
Have you gone on any literary pilgrimages?
I do tend to, if I travel, do a lot of walking. In cities especially, Florence, Rome, Paris, London. When I'm there walking through the streets, I know that a lot of other artists, and I don't necessarily think that writers are artists, but that's for another day maybe, but I know that a lot of artists have wandered those streets for different types of inspiration. And there is just this sort of living creativity that's everywhere. And, it could be a rack of mopeds, or it could be the falling plaster off the side of a wall, but it creates this world that again, like sort of music,
Right.
allows me to sort of tap into my subconscious creativity and inspires me to write things that I would never consider writing.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever written? Something that didn't feel like you until it was yours.
I think the weirdest thing that I've ever written is this long poem about a squiggly line, and I called it Squiggle the Squaggle. It's very rhymey, very Dr. Seussy, and it went on for way too long. And I don't know why I had to write that. I don't know why I stayed with it so long. It's a real failed attempt. Like, I've looked at it before. I mean, I've looked at it since, and I've thought, is there something I can I turn it into a children's book? Is there something? It's hopeless. I don't know what it was. I don't know why. And like, who writes about a squiggly line? Like, it's nothing.
It's like kind of creative play almost.
It was, but like 20 pages of creative play, like in,
That's intense play.
A.B. Rhyme. I mean, it was just, I had this idea and I really went for it. But
how would you describe the moment you found out How the Butcher Bird Found Her Voice was going to be published?
oh man, ecstatic.
Yeah?
That was a sort of defining moment in my life. It was almost 3 years ago now. And I got this response from this editor that was just, it's the response that every writer wants to get. She wrote back and she said, I feel like I, how did she say it? When I was reading this manuscript, I felt like I remembered why I chose to be an English major. That's what she said.
That's amazing.
And that was amazing.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes when we write, we are exploring those words in that same way that kind of brought us as word types into Englishy things. And so to have her say that, I mean, she had me. Like, I think I had maybe some other options, but I went with her.
Awesome. Did you have like any significant changes that you made that you felt were pivotal in the editing process?
Okay, so my novel is it sort of defies Western linear chronology. And so it's written in the chapters, many of them could be standalone short stories, and they come from different perspectives already. And they're sort of interwoven, sort of like this big tapestry, this mosaic. You kind of have to get to the end to sort of get the point, get what happens. It's sort of the last chapter is kind of like a keystone, and it pulls everything together. So when it comes to that, I had already sort of mapped out what perspectives were going to be used, who was going to say that, and so I didn't make any huge overhauls like that. But as I was writing, and since it was such a focused project, I became a better writer as I was writing. So I would continue going through and overlaying new tricks that I learned about, I really like to get fluff out of writing for basic comp red students, but I think it's really important for fiction as well, not just poetry. You have to focus on the line in fiction. And so I was able to sort of understand story beats in a way halfway through my writing that I didn't understand at the beginning of the writing. And I had to kind of go through and do this comprehensive rewrite, revision, where I allowed a lot more white space to come through on the page so that there was some micro-tension and story beats that were moving back and forth.
In addition to being an author, you're also a professor at Chadron State College. How does your writing impact you as an educator and vice versa?
I think it gives me compassion because writing is a deeply personal activity. And I kind of compare it to birthing a child. You put all this hope and all these dreams into something, and then you're very proud of what you've written. And beginning writing students are no different. They have yet to gain all the skills they need to be strong essayists. On the other hand, they're using all the skills they have to craft this baby, and they're so proud of it. And so I think what it's allowed me to understand is that there needs to be prescriptive criticism in teaching writing. There just has to be. But I think it's valuable to do it with kid gloves and to respect the process and to respect where each writer is. And I think that's something I've learned through my own process of writing.
What would you want your students to know about writing? Like, if you could tell them, cheer them on in a way, like towards writing, what would you say?
Do you mean in the academics or the essays for classes, or do you mean if they were in creative writing?
Yeah.
Well, with creative writing, I mean, do I have to keep it to one thing?
No.
I mean, it's a process. That's the thing I like I can't say it enough. It's just a process, right? Like with my novel, I had to go back and change some things because I wasn't there yet in the process, and then I realized it would make it better.
Yeah.
And so revision is king. I think rewriting is really important. We never finish something the first draft. Nobody that I know of has ever done that. And it's normal to feel all of the things, like the euphoria of finishing a project and then the depression the next day when you realize you're as terrible as you had feared. That's real. And then you kind of work through that and realize, oh, there is something I can salvage here. And I think maybe going back to one of your questions, don't be that writer that worries about the blank page. Don't deal with writer's block. Just write.
Can you tell me like a fact about you that not many people know, just for fun?
What kind of fact do you want to know?
Just be random.
English is my second language. My mother is German. Came over to become a nurse and sort of loved the 60s and Kennedy, and so I had this obsession with America. Met my father in an airplane, and here I am. But she spoke German, and in the house, my dad spoke English, so I was learning them simultaneously. But I also didn't speak very soon. I mean, I think if family lore is right, she dropped me off at like preschool and said he doesn't speak, but he understands everything. And then when they picked me up that day, I was speaking. So it was all in my brain. I was just working out the two languages, which I've talked to other people who have grown up in similar situations, and apparently that's pretty normal. And so what's interesting, though, is I think most writers tend to use their first mother tongue to write in, and I like English. I think it's very plastic.
Yeah.
And German has some beautiful words, and it's so specific, but it's a bear of a language. So English is very forgiving. I do think that some of my construction, my syntax, is dictated by my German language skills. And sometimes it's off-putting to some people. Sometimes I'll verb a noun or noun a verb, and I think some of that probably has to do with two sets of languages up in there.
What would you say to a student considering coming to the English department at Chadron State College? How would you talk them into it?
I mean, I think it's pretty simple. There are great professors at Chadron. We have a genuine caring atmosphere when it comes to student interaction. I see a lot of my colleagues with their doors open, and students coming by for comp-food or coming by to talk about projects. And then I have, yesterday I had a colleague come in and talk to me about a student's project and run an idea by me. And so it's an intimate department. And, we have some smaller class sizes. We have really, I think, a fantastic selection of courses. And then as creative writing goes, we have this sort of burgeoning creative writing program, which Steve is doing I think a really great job of shaping. And so, I mean, that would be my one selling point is, come for the English or come for the education degree or whatever, but stay for the creative writing.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to share about the book?
Oh, I would love to sell a couple of them.
Yeah.
So go buy some for birthday gifts and stuff.